Yo, welcome back guys. This is the importance of vowels. If you want deep singing knowledge that you'll get nowhere else, please subscribe, pound that thumbs up button, let's go! So I'm kind of known for making some bold claims about vowels, how they don't matter, how they shouldn't matter, X, Y, Z, and I've been criticised for this in the past. You know, many coaches don't agree with me. So I wanted to just talk about this. Let's talk about when vowels do matter. What is the context that vowels are going to matter a lot for a singer versus the context where they're not going to matter so much. And when I say matter, I'm talking about in terms of singing fluidly and easily throughout your range. Certain rules are going to apply less or more depending on where you're at. Yeah, sure, for very advanced singers, they can let go of a lot of the things that we talk about when we talk about going through the bridge, staying narrow, staying in the pocket, maintaining release. All these things the advanced singer can start to let go of more and more because they have a much more consistent pattern of release throughout all types of sounds in their voice. However, the beginner and intermediate singer, they hit hurdles, they hit roadblocks, they hit problems. Some sounds they're going to find more problems with than others. This is where vowels start to come into play, because a singer might find, well, on this particular shape, I get through my bridge no problem. But as soon as I change to this vowel, and just to say, I'm using shape and vowel interchangeably here. I think of them as sound shapes, but they're referred to as vowels. So however you want to describe it. A singer might find, yeah, on this sound, no problem. But as soon as I change to this vowel, I just can't get through my bridge very well. It flips, it feels unpredictable. Now, the logic goes like this. Therefore, that vowel's probably not suitable for my bridge and I need to modify it and change it towards something else in order to help me through the bridge. And this is where really a lot of the problems come from in terms of the disagreements between singers. So my goal as a coach typically is this, more so than teaching you how to sing. It's really just teaching you how to use your voice more freely. And a lot of that comes down to this. I've got to find areas where you're weak, where we're pushing against your comfort zone, and we've got to go and work on those areas. So a lot of the time, the solution, the long-term solution to fixing your voice is a short-term problem, quite frankly. So what I mean by that is this. If you're used to getting through your bridge and kind of adjusting the vowel, changing it, modifying it, you'll find, oh, I'm getting through my bridge reliably. Yeah, that means it's good to modify. The problem's this though, is what happens when you want to sing that ah or that eh through your bridge. You change the vowel, you start pronouncing words differently in your mid-range to the rest of your range. You know, that's where the problems start happening. Now what if I told you this? If I told you, well actually, if you just keep the vowels pure through the middle of your voice, at first it might be harder, but once you get comfortable with those different shapes, you'll actually find, okay, there's a broader pool of sounds I can draw from in this mid-range, and in a lot of ways it's just as broad as the bottom or the top of my voice. And so this is the thing with voice, learning voice, teaching voice, teaching voice. The problem is this, is there's always this trade-off and battle between your long-term goals and the short-term problems you're going to have to deal with. A lot of the time, real concrete improvement comes at a cost, and that cost is going to be some short-term issues, some short-term confusion, some short-term, oh, I'm out of my comfort zone, I don't want to go there. I'd rather change that vowel and go somewhere uncomfortable. And the cognitive dissonance that is involved in this is strong, because what happens is, when a singer makes the choice of going where it's most comfortable rather than where they need to get better, the way that they rationalize that usually is this, is they think, I'm getting better, it feels better. The other way was bad technique, that's why it was difficult for me. This way is easier, and you can see it starts to self-reinforce because they find solutions, but really they're just going towards where they're comfortable. This is the real deep battle that goes on in a singer's mind, Is this really improvement, or is this just me going where I'm comfortable? Most of the time, real improvement is going where you're least comfortable as a singer. So if that's on an ah, if that's on an do some scales there. Don't change the vowel, keep it pure. So you'd be surprised, guys, how few singers can just do a simple, light, low volume exercise on 3 separate vowels and keep the vowels relatively pure, keep the volume relatively consistent, keep the type of sound they're making relatively consistent. You'd be surprised how few. Most singers, when they come to me, if I give them just a simple vowel exercise, and we'll do it in a sec, they just struggle on some sounds. They're not necessarily sure why. And this is where the singer, rather than progressing, a lot of the time we have to go backwards towards just some simple voice exercises that just test out. Can you make different types of sound in your mid-range? How about this sound? How about this sound? How about this sound? Where does it start to go wrong for you? Because those little details are going to dictate whether or not you're going to worry about the mid-range as this funny little area in your voice, or if you're going to sing just straight through it like it's any other part of your voice and like you just do not care. So the exercise is this. So you can see, okay, and I've done no singing today, that is literally me warming up through my mid-range. You see how vulnerable it is. I'm making mistakes. I'm comfortable with that though. But when it clicks in, when it locks in, you start hearing that spin. You start hearing that very clear transition between the vowels, and you very much hear E, A, A. Now many singers, when I give them that exercise, they may be just as vulnerable as I am through there right now, but they're reluctant to try and do it correctly for whatever reason. So you get something like a E. For this type of singer who's struggling in the mid-range to get those nice, clean, pure vowels, regardless of which vowel we're picking, for those types of singers, vowels are very important. They're in a smaller box than they need to be. So I've got to try and, okay, just push you in that area, like just make these sounds. Get comfortable doing that. It's not necessarily singing at that point, it's just, you know, let's just explore your voice. Let's just learn to make different sounds and get real comfortable doing that. and see how that feeds into your singing. Because a lot of the time people don't know what box they're in. They don't know, like, where is my comfort zone ending and my technical limits beginning. They mistake those technical limits for physical limits, and they start to convince themselves, it's just because in the mid-range, you know, you can't really, you know, that vowel's just, it doesn't work. You've got to modify that vowel there, otherwise you'll pull chest. And as you get better and better at these types of exercises, what you'll find is you start to understand as a singer the deeper separation between pitch adjustment and the vowel. And that's really what understanding vowels really at a deeper level does. It helps you to separate out the pitch from the shape or the articulation of the sound. When that isn't the case, when those two things aren't separated and the singer's having to make choices about vowels in their mid-range, all sorts of things like this, vowels are super important to this type of singer. So when talking about voice, the reason it gets so complicated, I mention this a lot, is just because depending on where you're at, the information that you need and the skills you need to develop are just going to be vastly different, you know. Yeah, vowels don't matter to some singers, but to other singers they'll matter a hell of a lot for the reasons I just mentioned. This is the problem of making videos like this, quite frankly, because you can't really tailor what you're saying to the specific individual and where they're at. That is what we have voice lessons for, is for me to say, okay, let's try this, let's try that. And when it doesn't work, we can make individual adjustments for you, rather than just a general broad, all singers should do X, yeah? And that's all I've really got to say on vowels, guys. So master them, get good at them, get comfortable on any type of sound, and you will find that that translates into your singing convincingly, because you will just start to be able to pronounce the words as you would, yeah? And that's what we want, because we want to ultimately just get out of the way and just let the music flow out of us. So let me know in the comments below, guys, what you think about vowels. Do you feel like you have to make adjustments? Do you feel like you don't have to worry about it? Let me know. And if you want deep singing knowledge that you'll get nowhere else, subscribe, pound that thumbs up. I'll see you in another video. Take care. Bye.